Hey, everybody. Thank you for coming to yet another great interview for our 2023 Business Connection Virtual Summit. I am Bill Marshall, and I am talking with Brooke today all about bookkeeping and what it entails, what we need to keep track of, especially as our business grows and flourishes. What are the benefits of it? And there's a lot of different softwares out there. So, what can we do to kind of make sure we're keeping on track? And when do we bring in someone like Brooke to start keeping track of it for us? So, without further ado, I'm going to kick it over to her to introduce herself, let us know a little bit about her, and kind of give you a brief introduction into what we're going to talk about.
Hi, everybody. My name is Brooke Lera, as Bill said. I'm an accountant and owner of Divinlo Accounting and Bookkeeping. We're a virtual firm. We work with small businesses, various sizes. We help them outsource their bookkeeping and accounting, whether they are starting out and they need their bookkeeping and processes set up initially, or maybe they're a do-it-yourselfer but have grown and they can't handle doing that anymore, or they thought they could do it themselves and then it turns into a mess. So any of those situations we step into and we help them.
Perfect. So the first thing I kind of want to dive into is, what is bookkeeping? I know a lot of early entrepreneurs have no clue. I know I didn't in the very beginning. And what is the value of keeping track of our expenses or costs and things like that?
So bookkeeping, I know a lot of people who are not familiar with it. They think it has something to do with books and like a library. It's not. It's keeping track of your financials, your day-to-day transactions, on a monetary basis. So when they refer to books, they're just referring to like your accounting books, your journals. It's all electronic now, so there are no books. But back in the day, there used to be books.
Yeah.
So it's money coming in. So whether you're receiving money for your services or invoices, and it's keeping track of those and applying the payments to the invoices. And it's also keeping track of the expenses, right? So the money you're spending. And keeping track of, the bills that you have outstanding and the expenses and categorizing them. So do you want me to
Perfect.
say why it's important? I can say why it's important.
Yeah. Let's add that in there as well.
Okay. And bookkeeping is extremely important. It's one of those tasks that it's a little tedious for some, and they kind of put on the back burner, but it's extremely important because it keeps your finances clean. And at any given point, you can take a look at your reports and see where you are financially and see the health of your business. Are you bringing in the money that you were expecting? Are you overspending? Are you at a deficit? So it's important to have all of that. And when you have clean books, you have that information at your fingertips. And then, of course, at year end, it makes it much easier.
Absolutely. And I think that a lot of entrepreneurs in the very beginning don't even think about keeping track of their finances, which is a very dangerous thing because
Mm.
you could be spending way more money than you're making. And you might not know that just simply because you don't have it in front of you. And that's one of the huge benefits, just on a simple level, that you get from bookkeeping. Not to mention, like you said, having the clean books so it's easier for tax season and all of those kind of things as well. So, you know, we're keeping track of these different things. What are some examples of expenses that we need to keep track of? Maybe ones that we know, ones that we never even thought of. And then what are, well, let's start with that. What are some expenses that people need to keep track of that might not even pop up in their head?
So if you have an office location, obviously, you're going to have overhead, but such as rent, you're going to have electricity, you're going to have office supplies. But so many businesses are on a virtual basis right now. So there's less of that. So you think, that you don't really need to keep that close of an eye on it, but you do. And in fact, because you're virtual, there's actually a lot more expenses with software and all these things that get billed automatically. So you're
Hmm.
really not even paying attention to it. So you really need to keep track of that. There's so many like subscriptions and software and apps, and they pile up. And if you don't keep track of it, you are quickly eating into your profit margin. So you really do need to take a look at that. And in addition to obviously what I said, the basic office expenses, and then, the costs that you have related to your sales, whether that's job related costs or marketing costs or costs incurred to travel to a client's location, those kind of things.
Absolutely. And that it's the small ones that get you too, like those
Yeah.
automatic payments and
Hmm.
different pieces that start accumulating when you're not paying attention. So
Hmm.
there's definitely a lot of different expenses. So when it comes to kind of starting to put this together, starting to understand bookkeeping and kind of starting to put the pieces together, what are the players that we have? We have the expenses and the income. Are there other ones that we need to keep track of? What are the things that have to all come together?
Um, so if you're an accounting nerd like me, which if you're watching this, you're probably not, accounting is so cool because it all comes together. It all fits together like a perfect puzzle. And I won't bore you with that. But when you have all of your expenses in and recorded and categorized accurately, you have all your revenue and your sales recorded accurately, you can run what's called a P&L or an income statement, and it shows the money you brought in less your expenses, and it shows your net income or net loss. And when you have all of that in together, it's very easy to see, where am I excelling, what project or what revenue stream is really doing well, and which ones are not lacking. Should we just cut them off or should we give them some more attention? Where am I overspending on my expenses? Where can we trim that down? And then you see from time to time, over periods of time, you can compare those periods and you can see the changes that you make and the effects of those changes. There's also your balance sheet, which balance sheet accounts. Balance sheet is like a point in time report. So it shows balances of your assets and your liabilities, and then your equity. So it's going to show your bank accounts, your assets if you have, equipment or vehicles or a building. And then it'll show, your accounts receivable coming in and that's due, and what you're expecting to come in, and then liability. So all of that works together. The income statement then closes out to the balance sheet, and those two work together. And then the third financial statement is the cash flow statement, which a lot of people don't really pay attention to, but is a great statement because it shows you the difference in the change in your cash. And then it shows where that came from or where it's going. You have all this revenue coming in and you expect to see that in your cash balance. And when you don't, it's like, well, where did it go? Well, one, it could be an open invoice. You didn't actually receive the cash yet. So you have that revenue, you have that income, but you didn't get the cash. So it's not in your cash balance yet. Or you could be paying for an asset and you're not going to see that on your income statement. It's going to be on your balance sheet. So all these financials tie together, and the financials only work when your bookkeeping is clean and you have all those things recorded. So it's real little, and then it grows into these big reports, and these big reports give you lots of important, vital information on your business health and how you can make changes and pivot from there.
That is really cool.
That
How
was
it
a
all
lot,
comes.
right? I
No,
know,
no,
but
no.
I'm an accounting nerd. I love accounting.
But this is the excitement we need to have about our finances. People get excited about money. It might not
It's so
necessarily
cool.
be about the computing stuff like you're talking about, but as an entrepreneur, one of the main driving factors for most of us is the fact that we're making money or that we have income coming in. But
Right.
if we don't fully understand it the way that you were talking about, like you said, we might misperceive things where it's like, I have a huge amount of money coming in. Yay, it's going to be so much great when it sees the account. But you might have so much debt that you need to pay off, or so many invoices, or so
Right.
many like things you need to pay that
It's
the net
also
is smaller.
it's also super exciting too. When you get to see your income statement and it's like, oh, look how good I'm doing, you know? I mean, it's exciting to see that. Like, all right, I did all right. Look at me compared to 3 months ago or a year ago. Like, it's exciting. And if you don't have all of that organized and you can't run that report and you can't rely on that report, you don't really know how well you're doing. So it's exciting.
Absolutely. And so we talked a little bit about how to bring it all together, get those reports, see what they can tell us, how they can predict for us. So I think that kind of the next thing I want to get into is, as this starts moving forward and we get bigger and we have more income coming in, more expenses going out, what are some key things that, the bookkeeping is going to be able to hold us accountable to keep us in range of, or really make sure that we continue along that successful path?
So when you're expanding and getting bigger, right? Everybody, you feel those growing pains and you really want to hire people. You need the help because you're doing well and you want to keep servicing your customers well. But now you're growing and it's harder to do that. And you want to see like, ooh, can I hire staff? And you need to be able to see, how much that's going to cost. And you can look at your historical financial information and see, okay, this is how much profit I'll have at the end of each month. I think I can hire 4 people or 2 people and be able to pay them and still be able to pay all of the regular day-to-day bills. Um, you want to look at like if I buy a new piece of equipment, can I afford that? But you also want to look at too, buying a new piece of equipment or hiring employees. It's not only an expense, right? If you're buying a piece of equipment, it should provide you to increase your sales in some way or alleviate some expense in another way, whether it's the time you're taking or an actual expense. Same thing for employees. If you're hiring employees, it is an expense, but they also should be able to increase your revenue X amount too. So, but you can't look at just that. You need to also take into account the information from those financials and the history you have, a year or 2 years or 5 years. So that's one of those things that's like really helpful. I mean, also one thing you need to take into account too that we haven't talked about is a budget and a projection. And those are really important too. And you kind of use the historical data to develop these budgets and projections. And you want to use the financials, the information you have, your budgets and your projections in order to make these business decisions, hiring, buying equipment, letting go of a revenue stream. Sometimes these revenue streams are a pain. They're time intensive and you don't want to do them anymore. So if you want to let go of that revenue stream, you need to know, well, can I actually do that? How much is expenses allocated to that revenue stream and how much income? Can I let that go? Sometimes you can, but sometimes you can't without making other changes. So
Absolutely. And I think what what's really cool about projections is, or bookkeeping and making projections, is if it's good bookkeeping, it starts reading like a book. You can see the past, the present, and then project the future all pretty accurately,
right,
because you've been keeping track of all these things. So it's
right,
extremely important to have those accurate records, for that reason alone, minus when you start going to do things like getting financing or
right.
trying to
Oh,
pursue
absolutely.
getting things like that. The more easy it is for the person who's potentially lending it to you to read these books, see these projections, and accurately be like, okay, I believe that this is correct. It makes it easier to obtain that financing and all those different pieces. So
Mhm.
I think we're all starting to really see the importance of keeping accurate books when it comes to our financials and making sure that, we have all the different expenses and records and everything kind of really well taken care of. So to kind of wrap this into a little bow, we talked about what bookkeeping is, things we need to keep track of, the different reports that we can pull, the projections we can do, the financing we can now get because we have good books. Tie it all together for me with a little bit of kind of trying to figure out the best way to word it, but ultimately, like, we're now doing all the things we need to do correctly, and we're able to achieve so much. What besides, we talked about lending, but what other potentials do we now have because we have that accurate bookkeeping? Like, what are things that you've seen businesses accomplish because they keep such great records of things?
The one thing I only briefly talked about early on, and you did too, is tax season.
Hmm.
Um, a lot of times people think of their financials and getting this all in order as a year-end headache task
Yeah.
that they can't sleep for weeks or months because they're worrying about getting this all done. And is it right? And do I have the money to pay that tax? Do I have to file an extension? Um, when you have clean books and you have all this information, you've been looking at it on a daily, monthly, quarterly basis. Come year end and it's tax time, that's a breeze. That's no longer a headache. You know what it's going to be. You've looked at it all year long. And by looking at it all year long, you can then file your taxes on a timely basis. Your tax accountant's going to love you. I mean,
Hmm.
they love people that have their stuff in order. They're going to do your tax return before they do anybody else's. They don't need to file an extension for you. You don't need to be on their to-do list. I mean, the tax accountants are going to love you, and it's clean and pretty like that. They piece of cake for them. And you know what it's going to be. There's no surprise. It's done. The other thing too is, if you wait until the end of the year to look at your financials and get all of that in order, that's historical information. You can't make any changes.
Hmm.
If you're looking at these things on a monthly basis, or even more frequently, a weekly basis, and you're running your reports on a monthly basis, yes, it's historical still, but you have time to make changes. You can look at your budget and say, "Ooh, I'm low on this part, or I'm overspending on this part." You have time to make those changes. Say you're halfway through the year, you have another 6 months to reach your goals
Hmm.
and make any changes you need to. But if you're only looking at the year end, too late.
Yeah. And that's the power of reports and having it all together. So definitely a lot for us to think about, but all things that, us as entrepreneurs or business owners need to really take to heart, because the power of knowing helps you, like you said, make those predictions, make those
Mhm.
changes, keep things smooth. And it's very easy to get out of, the habit and
Oh,
kind
for
of
sure.
miss things, and then now we're behind, and then I don't want to. But that's why Brooke is has a job, because people need to realize their weaknesses and potentially hire someone, or just don't have the time and hire someone. So
Absolutely.
in that respect, Brooke, tell us how we could potentially reach out to you and get a hold of you.
You can email me. My email is Brooklera at Divinlo. Divinlo is my company name. So DOVINLO .com. So you can always email me. My website is divinlo.com. And there's a contact me on that page. I'm on Facebook and I'm on Instagram and LinkedIn, all that good stuff. So yeah, you can reach out to me. You can even call me. That's on my website too. You'll get me. I pride myself on being extremely responsive. I love working with people. I love helping people, and I consider it an honor to work with somebody and become a partner with them. I don't see it as money coming in. I see it as in something exciting that I can work with somebody and help them reach their goals. So yeah,
Absolutely, and it definitely comes across that you are very excited about finances. So that
I
is,
know. I'm a
it's
dork.
good. But it's a good thing. Like, as someone who is looking to hire other people, we want to know that the person we're hiring is passionate about what they do. And
Yeah, and
that's,
cares.
I yeah, because it's going to make it that much easier to work with them, but also gives us confidence that they're going to do it correct. So
Hmm.
thank you so much, Brooke. I really appreciate you diving into this for us and really showing us the importance of all of it. And everyone, thank you so much for watching another great interview from the 2023 Business Connection Summit. Again, I'm Bill Marshall, and we will see you all in a networking event tonight at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.